On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at asking for help? Yeah, I get it. Me too. And yet, here's the good news. It is a skill that can be adapted and improved. Believe me, I've had to do a lot of work to get there. My name is Sylvia Mordini, and I'm the founder of Life Inspired, and welcome to the Inspire series. If inspired, please subscribe to my channel. I would be so grateful. And please share it with your friends. So what's interesting to me is that we as human creatures are actually hardwired for altruism. We are literally built to be generous. And not only that, it feels really good to human beings when we are asked for help and we're able to serve and to be helpful. So it's part of the way that we were created. And yet, gosh, if it's not so difficult for so many of us to ask for help and write down anything that arises as to why it's difficult for you. And at any point, know that you can press pause on this video, write something down, and then continue on. But writing down, why is it for you that it's difficult to ask for help? And write down 1, 2, 3, whatever many things that come up right away. But in a society that literally holds in regard self-help and self-acceptance and all of these things that are, and self-love that are trending, that these are things that we want to amplify, that we hold in high regard, and yet at the same time, it is increasingly difficult for us to ask colleagues at work for help, to ask our families for help, to ask our neighbors for help. And you know, what's so curious is that we are craving community now more than ever, especially after the last couple of years. And yet, as a result of technology, we're more connected, yet we're more emotionally detached, right? We are more literally connected to people all over the world through social media, and yet we're more emotionally detached. It's not gotten easier to ask for help. It's actually, studies show it's become more difficult. You know, if you think of old movies and sitcoms where literally the neighbor would go next door to ask for a cup of sugar. I mean, no big deal. Like, it's such a cliche, but so powerful. And now, would you do the same thing? Would you go to a neighbor and ask for a cup of sugar? I have to say, I would not. I would not. What would I do? Well, my immigrant background, and that's part of my social conditioning, and the Latina side and brown in America, I just have to do it all myself. Of course I have to do it all myself. And I would locate the closest store. I would go get the sugar. If the stores near me are closed, I would then have to drive further away, or I'm just going to not have to do without tonight, and tomorrow I'll have to form a plan and I will get the sugar. But something so simple as just going next door, knock, 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 asking for a cup of sugar, I know I wouldn't do it. I would find any way not to have to do that. And so just ask yourself, like, is that you? And I've lived in different neighborhoods as well, you know, for longer periods of time. But that emotional detachment and that feeling of like having to do it all ourselves, it can be referred to as ultra independence. And that is something that I struggle with. Again, you know, because of my societal conditioning, but because of the different influences and how I've grown up in this world and where I've grown up in this world. So for me, it's like, I must do everything myself, and only if it's dire straits will I have to ask for help. But as a result, too often I found that I was making things harder. So I've had to learn how to ask for help and move through the discomfort of asking for help, even though it doesn't feel very natural. All right. And what's interesting though is studies show that the more we ask for help, the easier it is. And I want you to think about, from what you wrote down, why is it hard for you to ask for help? How can we make it easier? So here are some things to make it easier. One, be very clear. And whether that means you need to write it down or practice saying it, but have clarity around what it is that you're asking for help from. And this is one of the biggest ones, because we are not very good at explaining how we feel and what we need. And we actually have a story created that other people know what we need. They already know what we need help with. It's called the illusion of transparency. We think that people know more about us and our needs than what they really actually do know. And so think about it, like this illusion that we have. It's such a great term. Because in relationships, I can honestly say that I've expected that person to actually just know what I need. Even now, I think that my mom should know what I need. But in actuality, they don't know what I need. I need to communicate that. I need to communicate it very clearly, because there's no way that any of us can know exactly what somebody else needs. It's so much easier if that person just says to us what it is that they need. So number one tip in becoming better at asking for help is having clarity in what it is that you're asking for help for, and the feelings around it, how you want to just communicate that. All right. Number two is to stop apologizing, and especially not starting with an apology of, I'm so sorry that I'm asking for help. And here, from living in the Midwest and of the United States for a long time, you just walk into a room and you walk in and say, I'm so sorry. Someone bumps into you and you learn, oh, I'm so sorry. And it's ridiculous. Somehow this conditioning occurs and you're in a constant state of, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. So tip number two is to unlearn the I'm so sorry. Just don't apologize for asking for help. You don't need to apologize. It's disempowering. It has nothing to do with the situation. You are making a request, and then the other person has they have a right for refusal. They have a right to serve you in whatever capacity they can in their own timing. But starting with the apology just muddies the waters, and it just makes it less clear, and it just doesn't feel as good for anybody involved. If you are going into this disempowered state, and in the Cartman drama triangle of villain, hero, and victim, when we're going to ask for help and we start with an I'm so sorry, an apology for asking for help, we've immediately put ourselves in the role of the victim. And then the other person is now very easily forced into the role of the villain or the hero, whether they say yes or they say no, right? And that's not healthy for them, and that's not healthy for us. Hence, that's what's called the drama triangle. So that's the second tip, right? And then the third tip in becoming better at asking for help is to not see it as transactional, but as relational, all right? So when we ask for help, and I have to say, I used to do this a lot. Like, one, I'm not going to ask, but if I have to ask, I'm going to walk in with, okay, if you do this, I'm going to give you this, and this. And I'm going to go over the top in giving back to you, right? And that I approach the conversation in that way, as transactional, tit for tat. And I associate a currency, a value to the ask and to what I have to do in order to make this worth asking for. And so this has to be at least double of the ask, if not more. You know, that's just how my brain used to work, right? But write down anything that arises if that's how you approach asking for help, is transactional. And if it then completely goes out of balance as well. And instead, could it simply be relational? Can we take out the currency and the values and the measurements of this ask versus this ask versus this ask, and how many times you've asked, and you know, and how long do you have to wait before you make another ask of this person, and instead just make it purely relational. They're a human being. It feels good to be of service. People want to help. People truly want to make it easier than it was for them. And that's so much of the work that I do. Because of the traumas that I've experienced, I certainly want to shortcut other people's pain and help give the map, instead of you just driving around lost and wasting time. Like I wasted 15 years in a marriage that was so abusive and hostile and toxic. I don't want that for anybody, right? And I have a map how to get out of there a lot faster than 15 years. And so that drives my work, is to shortcut the pain and to show like, hey, it is possible to transform your trauma into a triumph and your wounds into wisdom. And that even after difficult situations have occurred in our lives, we don't have to get so heavy and burdened by that pain, right? That we can rise back up. And so I always find it important to make it easier for other people in any capacity, because I, one, in crucial times wasn't able to ask for help. Two, I went into fear about asking for help. And then when people refused to help me, it then solidified a story that no one will ever help me. So I shall never ask for help again, because I have some data collected that these folks didn't help in a difficult moment. But that's not true. And so in a relational sense, you know, we're all doing the best we can, and we are literally in this relationship with other people on a planet that is finite. It's like this spaceship that we all are on, moving through space. And here we are. Of course we want to serve and help other people for the greater good. But the number one reason that prevents us from asking for help is fear. And it's fear of being rejected. So what wounds do you have about being rejected? How often have you collected data points in being rejected? And so therefore we get afraid of asking again, right? That we'll get rejected again. But doesn't mean that that's going to happen. And I also believe that there's a fear of actually receiving, because we would have to let go of our addiction to drama and that adrenaline rush of chaos if we start asking for help. People say yes, and now what do we have to complain about? What do we have to, to create chaos around? And nothing, because we received the help. It was just made easier. And so either way, that fear of the no or the fear of the yes. The yes, in so many ways, is even more difficult for a lot of us because the fear has so much to do with, am I worthy? Am I not worthy? If this person says no, then maybe I'm not worthy. But if they say yes, it doesn't mean that we automatically feel like, yes, I'm worthy of receiving this. Instead, that can tweak us even more and feel like, I'm not worthy of this. I'm not worthy of them helping me. I can't believe they said yes. And it has to do with our self-confidence, sense of self-worth, and our value in ourselves. So the yes can also be something that can prove challenging at times to receive. But that's our own work. That's for us to move through. And truly, studies show the more you practice asking for help, the easier it does get. It's like a muscle. The stronger it is, the stronger it becomes. And you need more than one bicep curl to make your bicep strong. You need a lot of bicep curls. And that's why learning to practice asking in little ways starts to build that muscle and starts to build that comfort in your nervous system if this is a trigger area for you. And it could be little things like instead of always being the one to see, okay, is anything missing from the table for dinner? You see what's missing, and can you ask someone else at the table, would you mind getting up to get that? And let them do that. Just let them do that. If you're always the one going grocery shopping, can you ask for someone else in your home to do the grocery shopping and allow them to do that? Or if it's the laundry, maybe the wash has to be put in the dryer. Instead of doing everything, can you simply start to make little asks every day, every week, and see it for yourself if it gets easier? I know it will. I hope that this has inspired you to ask for the help you need. And we are facing right now in the world a mental health crisis. And it's more important now than ever to ask for help before things get to a crisis state. So if you're struggling, I implore you to ask for help. You don't have to do it by yourself. You are not alone. And never hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to be of service to you, and I'm sending you all so much love and so much peace. From my heart to your heart to the heart of the universe, may you love yourself, love your day, and love your life.